Good morning, everybody. Turning crisis into opportunity, collaborating to achieve shipping decarbonization. This is a team effort, and now we're actually acting as a team. With me here, I got some distinguished panelists, with Ingmar, Managing Director of Newport Shipping on my side. They're on Yvette van den Sommen, the Director of Asia Pacific Value Maritime. Panos Koutsourakis, Sustainability Director of ABS. And then I have Pierre Carassus, Societe Generale, Co-Head of Marine Industry Asia Pacific. And I have with me as well Toby, Forrest, Head of Chartering and Shipping Operation Pavilion Energy. And at the end, I have Jesper Hansen, Chief Revenue Officer of ZeroNorth. So are we collaborating, or where are we actually on adopting technology? Seen from your perspective, Panos, where are we presently when it comes to adopting readiness, and are we collaborating on a strategic level?
Okay, yes. Thank you, Olav. Yeah, actually, I see two main areas of focus for the technologies. There is the energy efficiency, and there are also the alternative fuels for that one. I can say for the last few years, there are new policy and regulations that landed in, and they have pushed the shipping industry to be more efficient. That means to consume less fuel for the same distance. So for many years, we have seen the ship owners investing for energy efficiency solutions, cost-effective energy efficiency solutions. For instance, low friction coatings, hull optimization, and of course weather routing, it has an enormous demand these years. But also there are others that invested on novel technologies like air lubrication systems and wind-assisted propulsion. So with regards to the energy efficiency technologies, there are many solutions which have been tested for many years, and they're having proven performance. We see also that this area is going to have a great focus for the following period, and that is driven of the enforcement of the CII, the Carbon Intensity Index, by the IMO. Now, moving to the second part of the answer, which is the alternative fuels. There is an overarching goal from the IMO to halve the greenhouse gases by 2050. And there is no doubt that as an industry, we have to adopt and use the alternative fuels to achieve this target. However, we have to unlock a key challenge. The key challenge is that we need energy which is abundant and affordable. And I mean abundant, we need a well-developed infrastructure to accommodate these fuels. So we see two enablers for this, for the key challenge. The first one is we see that the supply chain relocation and the new trading patterns will underpin the whole energy transition. For instance, the green corridors. The green corridors, either it is a single point or a point-to-point or a whole network, whatever is the model, is going to boost the energy transition. We see that initially will be more applicable for the liners trading, and in line with the container ship market growth, the container ships will be the early adopters of the alternative fuels. And that is a good reason that we see this strong trend for the methanol use as fuel that period. The second enabler, as mentioned previously, okay, we need the energy to be abundant, but also affordable. And to be affordable, we did a very in-depth analysis in our latest outlook in ABS about the fuels. And we introduced the two value chains. It is the hydrogen value chain and the carbon value chain. The reason that we introduced that is because through the analysis we have seen that producing fuels, synthetic fuels for carbon and hydrogen, it can reduce the fuel production cost. And in conclusion, I want to say that in order, again, to enable these value chains, and in particular the carbon value chain, We see the carbon capturing technologies will have a substantial role in the market. That's from my side.
Thank you, Panos. Thank you. Over to you, Jesper. You've been with a long term in the maritime industry, being in the broker industry, being an advisor, has directed different companies in the past. Now you are on ZeroNorth, a 2-year-old. You established yourself in Singapore, and the decarbonization and digitalization goes hand in hand. Part of what you are doing, kind of measuring and advising. So how do you see your part playing into collaboration and making people work together? Do you have the data we need? Are they shared efficiently, or are it proprietary right on it? Where are we on this topic?
Thank you. And I do think that that's a very interesting sort of segue, because I think this industry is probably an industry that has the most data available to it with the least understanding of how to use it. And we talk about democratizing data, and we talk about ensuring that data being brought out so that we collectively can reduce CO2. That's what we do in ZeroNorth, and that's what we work with all our customers to advance their understanding of what shared data can do and what the transparency of data. I think it's interesting to hear some of the prior panels saying that if we get rid of congestion in the Capesize market, there is a 40% reduction in market rate. Like that is over 40% capacity that's tied up. That means a lot of these ships would have gone with high speed, high emission to a waiting position. Why not utilize data to understand how do I most optimal get to the next point? And we believe that over time we need to create a shared commercial incentive for all the parties involved in the industry to actually benefit from not hurrying up and waiting. So yes, data is important. ZeroNorth is sort of together with other players in the industry, we are out there to ensure that the visibility and the transparency in the data space gets communicated.
Thank you. You know, it's a wide spectrum from having a technology available, making it commercialized, and kind of scale it up. And that part, I think I would like to hand over to Yvette from the Sommen, if I got that right. She's the director of Asia Pacific at Maritime. And they're quite an innovative company, and they will tackle an issue that I think kind of we maybe, at least for an intermediate solution, could look at, and that is how do we capture CO2? So what's your take on capturing CO2 as part of the short-term and long-term solution? You're all talking about green energy, but you know we do emit CO2, so where are we on that?
Yeah, I think in order to indeed capture CO2 or make any improvement actually on a sustainability aspect in the maritime industry, I think it's really important to also have a financial business case. So in order specifically for ship owners to really be able to make an investment, it should one way or the other also be attractive for them to do so, or it should be mandatory by legislation, but at least it should have some financial positive financial impact for them as well. So what we developed, it can be beneficial beside a positive environmental impact. So we have developed a system which cleans the exhaust gases from sulfur, but also from particulate matter, and we also capture CO2. And we can do that today. It's not a pilot version or anything like that. We capture it today. We store it on board, and we offload it at shore, where we reuse it again. So we look at the location where we offload it. And for example, we are a Dutch-based company, so we have a lot of greenhouses in the Netherlands, and we reuse the CO2 to grow crops in the Netherlands. And now we are starting here in Asia as well. We have contracted some important clients for us, which will be equipped with our system. And we are looking for outlets here in Singapore, so that's where I think collaboration in this respect is also very important to work together and see where we can find outlets. But for now, we are looking for example, vertical farms here in Singapore. I noticed that around 30% of that Singapore aims to have 30% of their food consumption grown in Singapore in 2030. So a lot has to be done, and I think CO2 can be a important player there.
Just a follow-up question on that one. Is there any difference in uptake of customers on the European landmass, the American versus the Asia-Pacific landmass? You know, are customers different to new technology adaptation of this? What's your take on it?
Well, I think from our perspective, at least we are based in Europe, so we have a bit more foot on the ground there, and for us it's easier to have people adopt it. I think from a worldwide perspective, I do not see a huge difference there, to be honest. Although from a carbon capture perspective, of course, it's more attractive if the vessels operate in US with the upcoming ETS scheme. That is absolutely the case, and I think that's why I started with, if there's no financial business case, people will just not adopt it. So that is something to keep in mind. So I think the ETS is a really important scheme, and as the previous speaker also mentioned, I think IMO should, make this, globally. I think that would be a very good step forward.
Technology uptake is going to be important moving forward, and Ingmar, which technology do you see is kind of in demand where you are, from the perspective you are sitting? Are we taking it on? Are we waiting for somebody else to solve the problem for us? Are we waiting for everybody else to move? Or are there a movement in taking up new technology to reduce emissions at a higher rate as we go forward, or are we kind of slow steaming still?
Yeah, that question, if I answer it from Newport Shipping's point of view, I mean, we definitely see, and we experience it every day, the highest demand is what we see on LNG retrofit. Because it's a proven technology, it's not any rocket scientist. So when we talk to our clients, and this is, I would say, worldwide, it's about LNG retrofits. This might has to do, as we have approved designs for these vessels, so that's why they contact us. But interesting enough, for example, just recently, we are developing together with a partner in Germany another retrofit concept. It's the widening of a container vessel, which has been done in the past. And funny enough, there is also first owners talk about this retrofit or task. So put it very simple. I mean, there is a lot going on, but what we experience very clearly is if customers talk to us, it's about LNG retrofit. And slowly we also look a little bit more in methanol, but this is maybe something for next year. So to answer your question, for us it's LNG.
On that note, kind of dragging on and putting on projects, not kind of creating this project, kind of get them alive, how easy is it to finance them, to get finance initially to get this project on, retrofits? Do the owners need help? Are you able to support them, or where are we?
Yes, we are certainly able to support. But it's very interesting. Most companies we talk to for the time being on LNG retrofits, I would really consider as the, let's say, larger corporates. So the subject of finance is definitely part of the equation, but that's not, it's more the idea to do an LNG retrofit, the technology and all this. But certainly we can support on the financing because we have the context on the financing industry. We talk regularly to financing sources. And we all know, I mean, a project which for decarbonization, there is money around, and I think that's definitely not an obstacle to make a project come through.
Very well, thank you. I think I would like to pass the baton to Pierre Carassus. You know, Societe Generale was among the first signatory, initial signatory to the Poseidon Principle. Years has passed on. Is it working? is it getting the attention? Are they kind of investing as you expected them to do, or kind of where are we on that?
No, yeah. So the answer to your question is yes. It's been quite a ride to implement this initiative. We are now in the 3rd year of reporting. But it's everybody played ball. What is interesting is that in the beginning, the banks co-founding this initiative like ours were a bit criticized, like, oh, why are you asking to assess this carbon footprint? And now it's the other way around, in the sense that there are a lot of discussions about whether the trajectory used for the Poisson principles is steep enough. So that's answer to your question. Now, what is interesting with this panel is that, I mean, I'm going to state the obvious. A lot of people are trying a lot of things. You know, there is no silver bullet to decarbonize the industry. We all know that in this room. But what is, you know, this panel is very interesting because we have carbon capture, we have retrofits, we have data management, and all of these are various ways to make it happen. Coming back to your question, how can we really play a role, you know, for the banks to support all those various initiatives? I would say it's diversification somehow, because you have the long-term view about, you know, the net zero fuel. I think a lot has been talked about it earlier. But what do we do now to really decarbonize? And you know, when I hear collaboration, and when I see, you know, the fact that we have a lot of clients in common, namely the ship owners, there is definitely willingness, and I'm sure the other banks can confirm later in the panel, but there is willingness to support not only new builds, but also retrofit assets. Has it happened enough? I'm not sure. Maybe you can comment, Ingmar, but definitely carbon capture, if you have the volume that have been seen on the scrubbers, for example, which are your product being, I think, a much better product than scrubbers. Yes, definitely, banks will jump on it because, you know, especially if it is, you know, asked by the ship owners. So, yeah, long story short, there is a lot of things to do, but I think the key word is not only collaboration, but also for banks to support several projects and especially support, you know, the parties who are diversifying and who are trying.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's interesting on the kind of the panel per se, and the last is Toby Forrest. You here in Singapore, Port of Singapore is evolving, looking at the fuel. You are, as a company, Pavilion, I guess, involved in LNG bunkering, because that's been part of it. So start coming into a commercial product in a sense with a supply chain in place. Of course, you're involved in the other part of that, but how do you see that development and that evolution going into kind of getting into place, being there, supplying on all the way from the well to the tank itself, on water vessels? What's your take? Is this kind of a beginning, and does it need to be ramped up significantly to actually achieve what we want to achieve? Have a second type of alternative fuels available?
So at Pavilion we have a bunker vessel coming. She'll be named next week. She's 12,000 cubic meters, so she'll be able to supply significant volumes here, and obviously we bring in 50% of Singapore's gas, so we'll be able to help this along the way. I think looking at the future fuels, the Singapore government's very pragmatic. They're not going to, and obviously they can speak for themselves if the MPA is in the room, but they can, they're very pragmatic. They want an industry. They want to be able to support a shipping industry. MPA is tagged to a senior ministry in Singapore. So I think there's all the will in the world in Singapore to do it, but they won't dictate what these fuels have to be. It's going to take the industry to choose the fuels that they want, and Singapore will facilitate that to happen. And I think if you go back to what Rasmus was saying earlier, we need to make a decision on what these fuels are. Because if I was speaking to Clarkson's last week, and they said to power one VLCC with ammonia, you need a $400 million investment in wind turbines. So, you know, a $100 million ship's got to be powered by $400 million worth of wind turbines. So, you know, but if steel mills or coal-fired coal power stations can take ammonia, they will take it. Methanol can go into the petrochemical industry. So we need to take our stake of what these fuels are and bring them into the industry so we don't lose them to other competitors, because it's going to be a fierce marketplace. You know, if you look in Australia, Twiggy Forrest is out there, he's selling his products, he's got the German utilities queuing up at the door. You know, we don't see the ship owners or the shipping industry queuing up at Twiggy's door wanting the products. If they were there, the Singapore government would be supportive. At Pavilion, we're looking at ammonia, and we'd look at other products. Ammonia, just we're doing a joint venture with the local decarbonisation centre on that. So I think, you know, the Singapore government, Pavilion, Temasek, very, very willing to look at other fuel sources. We just need to be able to get the guidance from the shipping industry as to what they are. And to get that guidance soon, because we may lose some of these products to other industries.
Thank you. Singapore is adapting. You know, they've been known for that for a long time. You know, they're changing industries and changing kind of circumstances. I think I will ask you, Jesper, and you're setting yourself up here, you know, and being in the hub of Singapore. Being in Singapore, is that important for you to drive the business forward? Is it important for the support you can get? And you know, we saw the launch yesterday. The whole thing is kind of the support you get in establishing new ventures, new way of looking at things, kind of the startups and all that. Was that part of your decision?
Yes, is the short answer. The long answer is that Singapore has a legacy of being a maritime hub. And while we are a maritime technology business, we are deeply anchored in our customers' need for the services and the software we provide. And that means we need to be where our customers are. But we're certainly encouraged by the initiatives that Singapore is putting behind this. So I think, you know, in a similar way, we're pushing hard to ensure that we are linked and associated with communities and ecosystems that are basically speaking the same language and promoting the same things that we are. And I think it is very important that, you know, we're talking about different technologies, we're talking about future fuels, we're talking about all these things, and we support and follow that all along, while at the same time operate for, you know, what can be done in short-term emission reductions. So we believe that, you know, catering for something that we can actually solve for today with a view on having that adaptability for the future as well is very important. And that goes for data, it goes for the technology we put behind it, goes for whatever fuel it is. And I think we all know that if we're able to reduce emissions today on the fuel types that we currently know, it has obviously an impact in terms of the CO2 reduction. It has a dollar impact. And I think everyone that's involved with future fuels, they also know that the X of cost of future fuels is significant. So if you're able to reduce on what we know today, then the economic benefit goes forward. Going forward is just so much higher, and that then sort of reflects to what we really are. And I have to say, we are a purpose-driven company that really wants to bring down emissions by getting our customers to use the software.
Thank you, thank you. Panos, question to you. We heard about, you know, future fuel ammonia or alternative fuels. We heard about hydrogen, biofuel, methanol. That was not me. Was it yours? Are we better now? Okay. Back again to the alternative fuel, to dual fuel, whatever you know, future fuel, to ammonia, hydrogen, biofuel, and methanol. And I was sitting here talking about, you know, we can actually capture CO2. Do you think that will be a short-term solution or a long-term solution if we manage to scale that up? Capture and storage or reuse it?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Actually, that depends a lot from IMO perspective. At this moment, the IMO perspective is based on a tank-to-wake approach. So that means is ship-specific.
The carbon capturing and the whole system will have an effect and will be enforced if finally the IMO decide to change its approach. So if decide to go on a well-to-wake approach, so considering the emissions across the life cycle of the fuels, yes, definitely there a carbon capturing will have a substantial role like we discussed previously. There are proposals that already have submitted to the IMO and there are under discussion. At this moment, officially it hasn't been adopted, but we're expecting the next IMO MEPC session to see what is going to be the outcome.
Okay, thank you. You know, I think it's important that we need to keep an eye on the different technology that's going to evolve over time. And then I guess eventually when you start looking into and thinking about this, what's it then? Is it going to be one or going to be two or going to be three different energy sources? I don't know. But the whole part is can we clean it? Can we develop the volume we need in the infrastructure? But on that, building that, all those technology, I think we kind of started a little bit collaboration. We get on end. So I will ask each of you to kind of in one sentence or two sentences describe, are we collaborating enough across different parts of the industry? So can I start here with you, Ingmar? You know, I know it's a tough question, but you know you.
Yeah, it's true. Are we collaborating enough? Listen, I would say from the talks with our clients or with the stakeholders we're dealing with, I would say there's certainly collaboration. And I think, you know, listen, if there's a chance to do a good deal, there's collaboration. So.
Thank you. Yvette?
I think it's a little bit twofold. I think, yes, on the one side, we need more collaboration. I think we need all hands on deck, you know, to get to where we want to be as soon as possible. But on the other side, if we try to collaborate and talk, you know, we need to take action now and stop just pretending and talking. I think we need something which can be implemented today. Also, of course, future-proof should also be adapted to future fuels and future technologies. But, yeah, collaboration can also be too much. Talking can be too much, I think.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Panos?
Yeah, we do see a lot of collaboration in the market. You know, as a classification society, we're acting also as a hub. You know, we're a very centralized system, you know, working with many different stakeholders. And as I remember from the past, it has been improved a lot. You know, we have a lot of projects, joint developed projects that we've seen, you know, even if I can say kind of competitors in between to work together, you know, on the same project to develop, you know, a system, you know, to discuss how to improve the infrastructure and how to unlock any challenge for the future. We see that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Are we doing enough? Probably not. What is striking when we discuss with clients, i.e. ship owners, is that sometimes, yes, they are in control of their fleet and their, you know, carbon footprint, or I should say greenhouse gas footprint, to be more accurate. But there is always a bit of a, not a complaint, but a comment, and you know, I'm looking at you, Toby, that the charterers are actually, you know, deciding and de facto, you know, about the utilization of the fleet, especially in certain segments like LNG, and whereby it gets a bit out of control for the owners. So the question is, can the lenders, can the banks be in touch directly with charterers, together with the owners in the room, to try to put in place some mechanisms where the AER and other KPIs are being decreased? That's a question. I've certainly tried several times with some of your peers. Didn't work out too much so far, because the idea was that, you know, when you order a cargo to go from point A to B, the economics are the main the main criteria, as opposed to maybe carbon footprint. So I don't know. That's something I feel we should do more, even though it's not easy.
Thank you.
I think you're right. So I think no is the answer. We're not collaborating enough. I was in Gas Tech in Milan 3 weeks ago, and Cheniere is doing something, and BP's doing something, and Shell's doing something, and the ship owner A is doing something else, and ship owner B isn't talking to his charterer. Nobody's talking to each other. We're going to have bespoke or isolated data sources, isolated systems. And in this respect, you know, and when we come to our cargoes, we can't even get our Scope 3 emissions from our suppliers when we ask them. So until we start, you know, talking more and collaborating and maybe understanding that the speed doesn't need to be warp factor 9, hats on backwards, I don't think, you know, we need to work more closely together.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Jesper?
And we didn't even talk about that, Toby. Thank you for setting it up. I think that's exactly the point. There is a lot, so the answer is no, there is a lot of bilateral initiatives. There is a lot of internal development in different companies. We are lacking standardization of reporting. We're lacking standardization of terminology. We're lacking standardization in data. We're working tirelessly to try and make that understood in the industry. We're pushing it out, pushing it back. It's interesting how this industry as a legacy has always been benefiting from hiding the 25 cents somewhere so that I can actually use that against you or have it up my sleeve. We need to get rid of that. And I think what Rasmus was saying before, this is a common goal. And Rasmus is talking about it at a political level. We need to move it in to everybody's living room and everybody's trading floor, and realizing that in order to get the Scope 3, in order to get the transparency, you need to report on the same data, you need to not cheat with your data, and you need to sort of make it understood that benefiting from that data will benefit the entire ecosystem, and again, back to the purpose, will hopefully help us all achieve the goals that we've set out, and hopefully actually go over and beyond these goals in terms of reducing emissions.
Yes, well, thank you. So maybe I try to summarize this as this. We are moving forward. You're definitely taking initiatives. We are taking steps. Are they the right one? That we had to wait and see, but we are definitely moving in the right direction. Though, we have a significant challenge when it comes to collaborate across all parts of the industry. That's what they heard the panel kind of the last word today. I think that stands. So let's roll up our sleeves and get to work and work together. Thank you very much.